On today's Tuesday Talk, we are answering a question from a viewer about structure. They said in their daily life, at home and at work, structure is very important to them. And they were wondering, is structure important to us? Does it play any kind of role in our full-time traveling, not working full-time Airstream life?
I think for most of us, we need at least some baseline level of structure.
Yes.
Whether we're living in a traditional sticks and bricks house, or we're out here in the middle of nowhere or at campsites living full-time on the road.
Yes.
Our structure is just going to look different from somebody else's, but I think there's still that element.
Yeah, and ours flexes a bit more than probably many people because our day-to-day schedule will change. So whether we're going on a hike or it's a travel day or we're going to go do an event at night, like things will change around based on that. But in general, structure is very important, especially to me. Steve's a little bit more flexible. I actually like a more rigid structure. I like knowing this hour I'm doing this hour I'm doing this. And so what I actually do is I calendar time block based on what we're going to do that day. So it's not going to look the same every day, but I'm going to make sure I know what we're eating for lunch, what we're having for dinner, and then I'll time block hours in the day for scheduling YouTube videos or answering comments or planning our next adventure and things like that. And that way I feel like I've had like a very structured calendar for me. I also schedule in fun. So it'll be like this whole hour, nada, do whatever you want. Steve.
I'm very loosey-goosey.
Yes.
In terms of like the specific tasks. I know that I'm most productive in the morning, so I wake up in the morning, I like to sit down in front of my computer almost immediately and start the day that way, because I just feel like I'm the most focused and I get the best work done then.
Yep.
So I guess in a way that is my idea of structure.
Yeah.
I won't necessarily know what I'm doing when I sit down, but I know that for the next hour and a half or 2 hours, that focus, whatever I happen to be doing, I'm going to do it well during that period of time. And then it kind of wanes, it ebbs and flows. I tend to be less productive around noontime, but then after dinner, actually, I get right back into that productive streak. So again, I'm there in front of my computer whenever I can.
Yeah.
So I just understand the way that I work best, the way that I feel the most productive, and I just try to maximize those hours as much as I can.
Yeah. So a general day for us will look like, if it's not a moving day, well, even if it is, in general, we wake up with the sun, which right now is between 7 and 7:30, but as the summer progresses, will be earlier, which is awesome. We actually prefer waking up earlier. It's just more difficult to do when it's not sunny out.
Daylight savings time just happened, by the way, so we lose an hour of light at night, or in the morning rather, but then we gain an hour at night.
Yes.
So the first day we were a little bit tired,
especially since Arizona doesn't do daylight savings time, so we haven't had to always do that for a while.
I'm so glad they don't do that. I wish none of the and tangent.
Yes.
Please continue.
So we wake up with the sun. We usually get we have like an hour and a half, 2 hours almost always in the Airstream. Just kind of doing whatever we need to do. I kind of have a relaxing morning and then do some work. Steve gets right to work on whatever he wants to work on with his computer. And then we will, if we can, go to the gym. If we're in a stationary place, we will go to the gym for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then afterwards go and do one of the adventures we want to do, or go run errands, or whatever that might look like. Come back, have lunch, and then the afternoon is either, again, adventuring, or hanging out in the Airstream, or just chilling, or hanging out with the girls, something like that. We have happy hour at 5 every day if we're at the Airstream. That's, as you guys know, if you followed us for a while, one of our like hard rules, I guess. Because when we first started traveling, we found that we didn't actually talk to each other much. We couldn't really ask each other, "How was your day, honey?" Because we were this close to each other all day long.
You know how my day was. You were like 5 feet from me the whole day.
So we found that we didn't really talk about the future, about dreams, about much. So that's why we instituted happy hour. So every day at 5, if we're at the Airstream, we have happy hour from 5 to 6.
And if we're not at the Airstream, we tend to have it out somewhere.
Yes. Or we're hanging out with other people.
Like a brewery or distillery or whatever.
Yeah. And then 6 o'clock, I start making dinner. We eat dinner. And like Steve said, after dinner, after we take the girls out, he works for a little bit longer on his computer, which is not always work. He sometimes is doing fun stuff.
Sometimes I'm on YouTube.
Work is kind of in quotes when we say work, because as much as we work.
In front of the computer.
Yes.
I'll say it that way.
I often am reading or knitting, and then we go to bed usually like 9-ish most nights right now.
Between 9 and 10.
Though
yeah.
again, as the daylight hours extend, we will probably be waking up earlier and going to bed later because we tend to be awake when it's light out and sleep when it's dark. So I
think that's a very organic thing.
Yeah, it is. Especially when you're an RVer and sometimes you have to preserve your electricity and not have lights on. Yeah. So that is kind of how our day is structured. And like I said, things will flex in the middle of the day based on moving days, adventuring, whatever we're doing. But yeah, structure still does play an important role in RVing. If we didn't wake up around the same time every day, I feel like we'd lose whole days, if that makes sense, or we'd lose whole mornings. And I don't know, I think having that wake up time, that going to bed time that's pretty consistent really helps keep an even track on our day, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it makes a difference whether you get up at 10 or whether you get up at 7.
Yeah.
That wildly changes your day.
Yes, it does.
So by 7:30, we're out of bed.
Yeah. So I think that's it for this week's Tuesday Talk. We'd love to hear your thoughts on structure and RVing. Are you more structured, less structured, in between? Let us know in the comments below. If you have a future Tuesday Talk question for us, pretty much on anything, leave that in the comments below as well, and we'll hope to get to it in a future video. Like this video if you liked it.
Subscribe if you're not, or subscribe again if you are. We'll take 2 subscriptions. Why not? That sounds legit.
Yeah. And we'll see you next time, guys. Bye.